Hello everyone and welcome to Veterans in Crisis podcast. Today we have Joseph Mitcham. Not only is he ex-para, but he's also an author. He's had one book out called The Watchlist, and now we're here to talk about his second book. You alright, mate?
Yeah, brilliant. Good to see you again.
It is good
Shame
to
it's
see
not
you.
in person this time.
It is good to see you, man. So, obviously, do you want to explain a little bit about your army career before we get into the book, just in case? I don't know if people haven't seen your first one, but just in case they haven't.
Yeah, I joined up fairly late as a soldier at 23, I think I was. Went straight into depot para, passed out into one para, did Sierra Leone with them, and then because I had a couple of A levels, they thought it'd be a good idea to send me to Sandhurst. So I commissioned, decided I'd do a different challenge and do something technical. So I went into the signals. I was an officer for another 14 and a half years until I hit my pension point. Mostly with mainstream signals units, but also did a couple of years with the Parachute Signal Squadron 216 in Colchester. Did a 2-year tour of Saudi Arabia as a standalone officer with the SANCOM team. I've done 2 Afghan deployments. First one was with 16 Brigade, working with the Omelette mentor and liaison team. And then the second time I went back again as an individual officer with the Intelligence Exploitation Force, where I was the ops officer for a really interesting 6 months.
Do you miss it?
Yeah, I ended up in staff jobs as an 11 Signal Brigade officer, which was not as interesting as the stuff I'd done before. So decided to come out and join the reserves with the reserve signals. But yeah, I would have missed it had I not gone into reserves and got to do all the best bits again, because I was back firing rifles and working with soldiers on the ground and doing a bit more green stuff than I've done in years as a staff officer. So,
that is the best stuff, isn't it? That is, that's why you join the army, isn't it? So to do the exciting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm not one for the barrack room stuff, the polishing and marching and shit like that. Like, it's just nah. I didn't join for that.
To be fair, I did pick and choose my jobs, certainly as an officer. I wasn't looking for the high protein G3, G4 planning type staff jobs. I was always looking for go to Saudi Arabia or go to Afghanistan and do something that's going to definitely be fun and keep me engaged. Rather keep my interest alive as long as I could and do interesting jobs than do like maybe career enhancing jobs that might get me higher in the ranks, but wasn't going to float my boat the way I like.
No, it's all about enjoying yourself, isn't it? Life's too short, isn't it? I understand people who do it for career-wise and want to do that and make it a long-term thing, but I think unless you enjoy something, you're struggling all the time, and it just isn't for me. Like
I said, float my boat. I literally came out of the army as a reservist, and I joined the tall ships team up in Sunderland. That was my first civilian job.
All right. Oh well, I mean I know about it, but you talk a little bit about that, obviously, because it was about Sunderland.
Yeah, fantastic. I've never been to Sunderland before. I went up there on the job interview. Got up there a couple of hours early, as you do as a military bloke. You go up for a recce and have a look around. I just couldn't believe it. It's such a big city, say right on the coast. And so the longer I spent up there over that 3 years, the more I learned and the more little gems I found, like the Sunderland Maritime Heritage workshops and all the projects going on in the maritime history, the museum and Winter Gardens, all those great shouts, and the things I learned about just little things like the push bar doors that was invented because of Sunderland, because of the disaster there where all those poor kids died in that theatre. Yeah. So they invented the emergency exits. Just brilliant. Love the people, love the team I was with. And the event was phenomenal. We got 1 point, I think we egged it at 1.5 million people in Sunderland over the 5 days of the event. Royal visit, 55 tall ships. I think we brought in something like £17 million across the region for the local economy.
What were you sea legs like? Did you get out on the sea?
Yeah, in the build-up, part of the project was to bring that sort of offshore experience to people from difficult backgrounds. So we recruited a load of sail training ambassadors. We tried to get one from every school across Sunderland in the age bracket, so sort of 15 to 17-year-olds, and give them a bit of a sailing experience, so they could tell all their mates at school, "Oh, you've got to get on the tall ships in Sunderland. It's coming to our city for a once in a lifetime chance," to try and encourage them. Because all well and good, like blokes in suits like me saying, "Oh, go on a tall ship, it's for you." They'll be like, "Cheers for that." So the idea is we got kids on the ships so that they could tell the target audience and sell the idea. So we end up on the event itself. I think we got about 167 odd, I think it was, kids from Sunderland. A lot of those places were funded by charities and businesses. We tried to get the sponsorships in for those places. But like I say, on the 2016 tall ships in Blythe, we took some of those young ambassadors up, and I went across on a voyage to Sweden with about 10 of them, I think. And it's brilliant. You can see the change in it. I always compare it to the joining the army. You go home at the end of your phase 1 training, your mum's like, "Oh, he irons his stuff and he tidies his room. He's completely new. He's like a young man." Well, that's kind of a consolidated week away on a tall ship, because they're in a cabin, maybe with 1 or 2 other people, and they have to keep it ship shape, otherwise it goes to rats. Obvious. So there's so many parallels between the tall ships world and military life. I'd certainly recommend it to any of your viewers that want to do something different. You can volunteer to be almost like a permanent staff on a tall ship. You don't get paid or anything, but you go and sort of chaperone kids and go on the voyages. And people have made sort of volunteer careers out of being on tall ships.
It's actually coming back to Hartlepool.
Yeah, Hartlepool have got it for 2023.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the race route yet, so I don't know if they're the start, middle, or end of the trip. There's typically 4 or 5 host ports on a tall ships event run by Sail Training International. We were the start port at Sunderland in 2018, which unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, clashed with a World Cup finals weekend.
Yeah.
So some days we didn't have as many people there as we'd hoped or planned for, but other days the event, people weren't watching the football and came out for the tall ships. 2023 have been amazing for Hartlepool. They had it last in 2010. Did wonders for the local economy and for the local kids. And they're just brilliant events to go to. Just seeing those ships.
Is it a rare thing for it to come back so quick? Because earlier you just said once in a lifetime opportunity. So is it rare that it's went back to Hartlepool so quickly?
So it's down to the ports. It depends on their appetite to host it, appetite and capability. So for Sunderland, it was a massive stretch. Although it's a bigger city and bigger place than Hartlepool, the capacity of the berths is the key thing. So most of the berthing capacity on the River Wear was in the commercial port, which meant the commercial port almost shutting down for the entirety of that 5 days of the event, plus about a week of the build-up. So it could have had a bit of an impact on the amount of trade going on in the port. Hartlepool, although it's a smaller place, I think it's got a bit more quayside available, so they can host the event. I'm not sure if it's going to be a shared event. I haven't heard it, but there had been talk previously when they were talking about hosting it, was sharing it with Middlesbrough and getting some of the other tall ships in around other bits of the coastline. But hopefully it'll happen in Hartlepool.
Are you going to get involved with it?
I'm certainly going to inquire if they want someone that's got a bit of experience, but more likely I'll be a volunteer this time. So my main job for Sunderland was recruiting 250 volunteers and getting them trained up and then controlling them and getting them deployed out on the ground, which was a massive undertaking. It's like forming your own regiment and training your own regiment to do a variation of tasks, from technical to hospitality to administration. So yeah, and that really inspired me, seeing people giving up their time for an event like that. After I went on to be a volunteer myself for the Cricket World Cup, and helped out at the Durham ground. So yeah, I'd certainly be a volunteer at Hartlepool if there wasn't a paid role. And I'd also
try for the paid role first, mate. You might as well get a drink out of it.
Yeah. Well, this was it. The full-time job at Sunderland meant it took me 3 years to write the Watchlist, the first book.
Yeah,
Where I,
wasn't that a brilliant run on there, wasn't it? You've done that before, so we're straight into the watch list now.
yeah, so not having sort of dropped the full-time job and just done a bit of reserves as OC, it only took me, I think it's 7 months to write Where is Tony Blunt? And then I started writing the third book in January. And what was homeschooling, the kids being indoors and under the feet, I haven't really had my foot on the gas. But now homeschooling's finished. I've written about 4,000 words this week, as well as getting out on a tab and a 30-mile bike ride and trying to get the fitness going as well.
So
Yeah, that's from next week.
I'm just, because I'm staring at you and it's got Where is Tony Blunt? You haven't lost the connotations of sort of the Cockney rhyming slang, have you, of Tony Blunt?
Oh, it's funny you say that. When I was writing it, the very first chapter is a flashback to Afghanistan, where Tony Blunt, if you've read the first book, he's an ex two-para bloke who's gone rogue, been radicalized. Anyway, so the very first word was his section commander shouting him from the back of from the section patrol, "Can't!" I mean, blunt. But on reflection, self-editing, reading through, you can't have the first book as cunt because it kind of.
It's the first thing that came into my mind when I seen it, to be honest.
Yeah, turns readers off. So yeah, I self-edited that out. And
do you want to start and tell people a little bit about the watch list, how you came about the whole idea? Because I mean, I've heard it and I've read the book and it's great. But like, other people need to know.
Yeah, well, it was that typical veteran thing. You're sitting there watching the TV and there's stuff on the news about terrorists committing atrocities, whether it was London Bridge or anything like that. And always the newsreader says, "Oh, and they were known to authorities. They were listed on the UK terror watch list." And I thought, "Oh, get hold of that watch list. Imagine getting that watch list and what you do to the people on it." So I kind of started developing a story in my head about what I would do if I got the watch list, theoretically. And then just one night, those ideas sort of came to a bit of a head, and I just started writing a few notes down on the computer. And that was, I think that was it 26th of May in 2017? And that was the night of the Ariana Grande concert bombing. So I was like, wow. And that kind of added fuel to the fire for me to carry on writing. Yeah, so the first book's about what you do with the watch list. So it's a signaler that ends up nicking it, and then he sort of takes it to a group of ex-special forces guys, and they kind of build on it and say what they want to do. And yeah, they go after sort of the top 170 odd bad guys. And there's a couple of twists in the middle and towards the end. Which leads us off. I had 4 or 5 other ideas as I was writing for follow-on books, but the strongest one, because I had another idea for the climax of the second book. I thought the spin-off of what happened to Tony Blunt, because all we see of him in the first book is near the end when they're holding one of the get-togethers to get some of their operatives together, is Tony Blunt gets pointed out as a guy that's potentially been radicalized. And Alex, the signaler guy, has seen pictures of him, and he's like been meeting with some proper bad lads. So they fish him out of the A group and give him a good dig. And that's kind of where the second book, after the flashback to Afghanistan, which gives you a bit of background about how he's gone the way he has, it kind of picks up from him getting filled in outside the orders group in Birmingham, and where he goes and what he does after that. It's kind of a parallel story between what Tony's doing and the badness he's planning, which I kind of build up in a way that you don't really know what he's doing. Whilst on the other side of it, every other chapter is more about what Alex and the team are doing to try and find him, because they need to track down the rest of this group. And the only lead they've got really is Tony Blunt. So yeah, the first book is, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 words more. So this is a marginally shorter book. But one thing I learned was that the chapters in the first book are quite long. So there's 27 chapters in the first book. The second book is really short, sharp. I think there's 60 chapters. So it keeps you moving around and guessing. A lot of the feedback says it's really action-packed, non-stop. So hopefully that's an
Are
effect
they
of
on
me.
Audible books as well, are
No, I have looked into that. It's going to cost about $3,000 to get them
they? Is
recorded
it?
both. But yeah,
You're
I
not
did.
just fancy reading it like and recording it on your phone.
Or in my voice, someone said to me, why don't you read it and record it?" I was like, I sound like David Beckham having a stroke. No one wants to listen to me for
As long as
however
it's
many
not a
hours.
stroke of push spice, you'll be all right.
But to be fair, I have had a stroke at some point.
Oh, I
Um,
mean, do you want to tell us about that? I mean, I know I have, right, but
yeah, I failed my hearing test coming back from Afghanistan the second time. And they put you in the little room and you press the buttons, yeah, left, right, God knows what. So I failed the test about 3 times in a row. So they sent me down to a hospital in Birmingham to get my ears properly checked, which involved an MRI scan. And the doctor called me and he's like, "Well, there's nothing wrong with your ear canal, but you've had a stroke at some point in your life." And he showed me the picture of the MRI, and the whole left side of my head, around here, has like got a shadow over it, and that's scarring from a stroke. So they checked out my heart, and they found that I had a 5 pence piece size hole in the heart between the chambers, which kind of explained why I'm not very good at sprinting events and why I nearly died on the log race and the stretcher on. But it's basically because I've got no back pressure on my heart, and if I do try and put stress on it, if there's any blood clots going through at the wrong time, then they bypass my lungs, which is where blood clots would normally get filtered out of your bloodstream and potentially go straight up into your brain, and that's what gives you a stroke. So if you've had strokes or mini strokes, chances are you've also got a hole in the heart because those clots haven't been filtered out through your lungs.
it's mental that they didn't know. Have you got any idea when it could have been?
The only thing I can kind of think, well, there's two instances where I kind of think, oh, it could have been then. One was when I was playing space hopper milling with one of my mates down in the officers' mess in Telford, and I said, "Pause. I'm just going to get a drink. What do you want?" So turned around to go and get a couple of beers, and then wallop on the back of my head. This space hopper smashed me, gave me whiplash for about 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, yeah, that stinks of a head injury. But more likely was, I think it was about 7 years ago. I bent down to pick up one of my little girls to put her in the bath, and I got like a vertigo. You know, when you get really dizzy if you stand up too quickly. Well, I got that, but it didn't go away. Normally, that sort of clears after a couple of seconds, doesn't it? Well, it didn't, and I had to get on my hands and knees, and I crawled into my bedroom and got myself on the bed and just laid there. And I had this vertigo for about 4 minutes. And people who've had strokes have described to me having that sensation of vertigo. Luckily, that's all it was for me. And it kind of cleared up. I had a headache for about 2 days, but a lot of people lose their sight, they black out their eyes, they lose sensation down one side. So
That
if
could
you
have
ever
been.
get vertigo and it makes you feel really bad, get yourself a couple of aspirin in you and get it looked at.
That could have been so much worse, man. Couldn't it? With especially, I mean, it's bad for you, but with you putting your daughter in the bath,
Yeah,
anything could have happened there, man.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, you've wiped us
Yeah.
out there. I wasn't bothered about you. I was just thinking about your daughter because I've got one. I was thinking, oh, just put her in the bath when she's a kid, man. I'll be horrible. Be horrible.
So if you get that vertigo, this is good advice for anyone. If you get that vertigo sensation, it doesn't clear straight away. Pop a couple of paracetamol because that'll get rid of the blood clot in a couple of minutes. And if it gets worse and your eyesight starts going a bit blurry, like you get snow blindness, get on the phone to the ambulance straight away.
Yeah, never thought we were going to get some medical advice when we come on with this talking about your book, do we? So are you obviously that book's done and it's for sale on Amazon, yeah?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's if you've got a Kindle Unlimited account, you can get it for free. Otherwise, I think it's a couple of quid. Or it's in paperback. Or if you want a signed copy for a present or just for yourself, then look me up on Facebook, Joseph Mitcham, and I'm happy to stick signed copies in the post for £12.50.
Nice
23 quid for both books.
There you go. That's not bad at all with postage, is it? Not bad at all. So moving on, are you making a third book?
Yeah, I've kind of strategized a 7-book series.
All right.
So the Watchlist was great as a standalone story. Tony Blunt's pretty good as a standalone story, but if I'm going to make it into a series, I needed to sort of have the chunks of story lined out, heading towards a sort of a big culmination. So I've done a bit of whiteboarding and put some ideas down to try and come up with how that would look. Yeah, so I've got another 5 ideas in the pipeline to finish off the series. And the third one, about a quarter of the way in now, so I'm on 22,000 words as of today. And I say it should.
How many
should
words do you reckon will be in it?
The first one was 101,000 words. Second, Tony Blunt was 97,000 words. They'll probably get shorter. But there's less. So the first one, I'd spend quite a lot of time introducing the characters. So the main characters. So there's not so much of that in Tony Blunt. You know most of the people already. There's a few characters introduced, a few further developed. The main security service MI5 officer that's kind of referred to, and she's on a phone call in the first book. She's one of the main characters in the second. She's based on a Sunderland lass, and she's a Mackham. She's in it quite a lot for the second one, and will be a main character going forward.
Brilliant. I like anything about Sunderland, mate. You know that.
There's lots of ease and.
Is there anything in the pipeline for like a TV series or a film or anything?
No, a lot of people said it would definitely lend itself to a good Netflix miniseries.
It definitely would, because obviously I've read the first one, and I think when you get into like binge watching the likes of streaming services and where you can watch straight away. I mean, with the lockdown and stuff, I've watched loads of stuff. Like, because you just watch 1 hour and you've got nothing else to do, have you? So it's great. Can you remember in the old days when you used to watch something for an hour and wait a week? You know what I mean? My memory's shit, so I could never remember what was happening. I used to be like, who's that? What did they do?
Yeah. There's a few things like the Bodyguard, I think, was the last series I watched like that. And I really liked Homeland. I think I first watched Homeland on my last deployment to Afghanistan. The missus sent it to me on DVD. I've just started watching series 8 of Homeland. But yeah, the story, it's all easily achievable in terms of low production costs, because it's on the streets of Birmingham, a lot of it, and it's not exactly millions of pounds worth of special effects or aircraft or anything like that. It's all fairly easy to do.
So, well, if anybody from Netflix is watching, or Full 73 production company, they're from Sunderland, fucking get on that one. Get on it.
Awesome.
Right, mate, is there anything you want to get out before we finish off?
No, I've been doing a bit of work with the local Parachute Regiment Association branch.
All right.
So it's just I suppose the message is keep in touch with your mates and organisations like yourselves. Big network and people out there, probably more so than usual, this lockdown and isolation. You feel the need for a chat, then there's probably 10 of your mates that are in the same boat. So don't feel like you're harping on at anyone. Just get in touch and speak, because it's always good to hear from a mate, and
it is.
You're probably doing someone a favour yourself.
It's surprising how much it lifts your morale if you hear for someone. So yesterday it was someone that I served with, haven't seen for 32 years, and it was his birthday, and because I'm new to social media, his birthday came up, so I had to send him a birthday message, and then we had a little bit of a chat, and that was set my idea up yesterday. It was great. First thing in the morning, and I hadn't thought about it or anything, and then there's a guy I haven't spoken to for 30 years, just had a conversation with. So you're right, it does, and people should keep in touch. Shared experiences, man. There's a lot to be said about talking about people who you've had shared experiences with.
Yeah, always got that thing in common. There's always something to talk about.
Yeah.
Something to go off about.
I still remember the fight you had in the nothing. If you send us some links to buy the book and stuff, we'll stick that on the advert before this goes out. This will go out next Thursday.
Magic. Cool.
Lovely talking to you, like always, mate.
Yeah, I'll be up there for some recce's for the back end of the third book because Sunderland's going to feature heavily.
Come and stop here, mate. Come and stop here. There's always a flat here for you.
Oh, magic.
Yeah, come as well. You can stop in the ERV. We've got the flat. So you can stop there for as long as you want.
Fantastic. Get out some beers.
Yeah, fucking right, man. Why do you think I said it?
Right, Jet. Nice one, mate. Thanks very much.
Cheers, man. Bye.